First of all, thank you all. This is awesome because this is, first of all, our first webinar on Zadel, but also our first webinar. I mean, not first webinar from me, but first CKEditor webinar this year. So it's like a very big and very, like it's a cool thing to have. Like it's always enjoyable. So it's fun and nice. So the webinar itself is about getting started with CKEditor. So I would love to first introduce myself since I already speak. My name is Vadim. I work as a developer advocate at the company called CKEditor. Obvious thing. You see the logo at the top. You understand where you are. And yeah, I work here. My job is to create content and support you every step of the way. So you are supported in terms of like educational resources that can help you to build cool things and understand the product a little bit better. So that's shortly about me. And I have a wonderful colleague of mine who is usually known for wearing amazing Pokemon's hoodies, but not this time.
Not today.
Yeah. But I will allow him to introduce himself.
Hello everyone. I'm Vitek. I'm the senior technical product manager at CKEditor. So basically, I'm working with a few teams on our side, building the product, basically building the core of the editor. So that it benefits users, our customers, our beautiful community, as well as developers. Obviously, we love them. Like I have a technical background as well, so this stuff is exciting for us to have you here. And we'll mention the product. We'll mention the deep dive into the code. But yeah, it's great to be here, and I'm really excited.
Perfect. Yeah. And just to make like a TLDR version of what's happening today. So first of all, we will introduce CKEditor's capabilities, like in general. And obviously we will talk about like what CKEditor is in general, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Then we will provide like a very detailed guidance on how to set up your instance and how to get the actual editor for yourself. Then we will highlight and discuss different features and just to kind of talk about like what is capable, what you can get from CKEditor and how you can actually benefit from it. And obviously at the end of it, we're going to have like a dedicated Q&A session when you will be able to talk to us and just ask questions if something wasn't clear or you want to kind of, like expand your knowledge even further. So with that being said, allow me to share my screen. And also, can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So this is our main website, and here's the moment when I will use Vitek's amazing knowledge and familiarity with the product to give an introduction of what CKEditor is, and we will use our website to basically guide you to correct resources. Basically, we will guide you through the whole ecosystem, and we will use our landing page main website, main website as the anchor, like the top level node. So Vitek, take it from there.
Yeah, it's always difficult, like pitch your product in one sentence, right? So it's basically
I agree.
Yeah. But CKEditor and CKEditor 5, which is basically the version that we'll be mostly speaking about, is this modern customizable rich text editor that you can use for your web application, right? Basically the web editor that you can embed in your product. And when you think about it, like it's a very interesting stuff that like when I joined CKEditor, is like, okay, like what are those rich text editors? I do not see them anywhere, right? But if you think about it, they are everywhere, right? It's the stuff that you use daily, and you even do not think about it, right? Like it's Notions, Google Docs, and other products that you have is basically typing text on the internet. It's Web 2.0 stuff for 20 years plus, probably. So the CKEditor basically as an editor allows you to create this experience in your applications, right? Depending on the use case that you have, you may want to create document editor with great collaboration. You may want to have emails, right? You may want to have great CMS with great article editors. So there is this whole universe of use cases of rich text input, right, that you want to have enabled, right? And there's different products that you want to build. You may mix those use cases. One thing that is interesting for some of you, for example, maybe AI, right? Like we see AI progresses daily, and one of the things that AI is good at is text, right? And you see those interfaces that are being created. There is this chat with some editor on the side, right? Like ChatGPT Canvas, when you see those editors. And this is basically the thing that we are building. We want to allow you to create awesome experiences for your users, for your stakeholders, for your company's applications, to have this editor in your environment, basically. So we've spoken about the use cases. I'm not sure, Vadim, like which one I don't know speaks to you the most.
I don't know. Like honestly, like when I just joined CKEditor, it was always tricky because like the possibilities are endless and like the insanely huge ecosystem, because like the insane amount of plugins that are available, you're honestly lost because like you can think of like it's so many things, and it's always like it's difficult because like I can create anything with it. Like it's like, you know, it's
Yeah, yeah.
how is this thing called, like when the Thanos had like this, you know, like magic thing, like
The Infinity Gauntlet, I think.
exactly, yeah, yes, yeah. So like it feels like that, like having this thing, like it's like you have the ultimate power.
Yeah, yeah.
uh
It's basically, I think, like you have these use cases, right? And then we will jump to the feature, which is okay, like I have something in my mind, my company wants to create something, there's this workflow I want to create. But then you dive deeper into the features, right? Which is basically, okay, like how my editor should look like and what are actually the capabilities I want to give to my users, how I think about this content creation. Is it maybe singular, like only one person is creating? Is it like multiplayer, which is we have a bunch of people collaborating with each other? Not like even going deeper, right? Like those capabilities that the editor has, links, bolts, which are pretty standard, tables, lists, and we can go deeper and deeper. And there is basically a whole ecosystem environment of like thinking, okay, what is the best for my users? How I can provide good experience for them? What do I anticipate that will be useful for them? So that's very exciting as well.
But in general, like if you're new to the product, if you're unsure like how and basically what's the use case, how you like what are like this set of features that you can use, because like when you look at the list of features, obviously, like actually let me do that right now. So I'm not just speaking but also showing, because we have a dedicated page where you can see all of the features available. I shared it to the backstage with a colleague of mine, so she will hopefully post it soon. And yeah, when you see the list of features, sorry, I was too fast. So when you see a list of features, that's honestly a little bit misleading and a little bit confusing. Like if you're, you know, unfamiliar with the product, because you're looking at that like, oh, I don't know, that's a lot. Like it's unclear like how you can combine it into something, you know, into something usable, something like something use case focused and something specific. That's why we have a page with demos. And basically this page with demos can help you to understand like the exact more complete setups, like more like, you know, like tailored for a specific task, you know, like, or just, you know, like specific setups that look complete for general purposes or general tasks like file upload and management, you know, like it's like very specific things. However, you should also take a look at our blog, because we post a lot of stuff there that's quite often focuses on how to use the product and the use cases. So I will also link to our blog, and I already apologize to our colleague in the backstage because I will share a lot of stuff. So that's pretty tough job. However, yeah, so in blog we have a lot of educational resources, and you should definitely read that stuff because we pay a lot of attention to how we write content, and we basically we like put a lot of effort into content, so we make sure it's actually useful and educational. So read it out, and just yeah, also let us know in social media, like connect to us and tell like, hey, like this is missing, this is unclear, like this is the stuff I want to see, and this is the stuff I don't have, like in terms of educational resources like articles, or the features are, you know, maybe not like obvious enough for you. Like any bit of information is useful to us. That's what I'm trying to say. So with that being said, I think we can proceed to
Yeah, and I can
the
create the perfect segue, which is basically we show you the page, we show you the list of features, we show you the demos, but then you have this like feeling, but where do I start, basically? Like, there is hundreds of that. Like, I can create anything. Like, what is my starting point? And I'm not talking about like starting point understanding. I mean here starting point developing, right? Starting point setting up, starting point my product manager wants to see the results, right? It's basically, as a product person, this is like a thing that you see, which is, okay, we are creating this spike, POC, whatever. Like, we want to see this, how this product would do in our application. Do we want to like use it, right? Like, let's do something with it. And then we have basically build something for you to help you. And this is, Vadim, the builder. Exactly.
The builder, yeah. I wanted to do the how is it called, like drum
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but I just figure out people who are wearing headphones will not appreciate that, so I didn't do that, and
Well,
then my brain stopped. However, this is the moment when we introduce the builder. So builder is a relatively new. I don't remember when it was released, but it's relatively young.
as a
Addition.
concept, it's been with us for a while as a concept. As for the rebuild of the builder, I think it happened like June last year. We basically released the new version that has this cool capabilities of previewing everything that you have, which is less than a year old.
And just to be very clear, we're always working on that. So it's like it's constantly updated. Even for me, like the person who is working in the company and creates a lot of starter projects. So builder is constantly like the code, the actual like project is constantly refined. So I can constantly see the improvements. So we're all the time working on that. So it's not like forgotten, like territory. We are paying a lot of attention, and it's very important because we want to reduce that friction of like getting from zero to production-ish, because it's not really a production-ready thing, but at least like it's really usable, already functional project you can have, and builder can help you with that. Yep, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think that, like, obviously it depends on your use case, right? You've mentioned this production readiness. Again, like, we understand there are different companies, use cases, sizes, right? Like, for some enterprise, the lead time, let's call it, could be weeks, months, right? Like, we all know how the processes needs to be done, right? Like, you need to get these approvals, but we also know that there are some indie devs that basically take the builder, take its output, which we'll show in a second, and they go to production within one day, right? If they want, because their use case is a bit simpler.
Yeah. Like, let's actually talk about the builder and the process itself. So builder consists of 4 steps you need to complete in order to get, it's a little bit like 4.5, I'm going to say, because like it's like also the account creation, but let's talk about that a bit later. The first step is the preset selection. So if you're not sure, like, what do you want, like if you remember the demo page, this is basically interpretation of the demo page to actual usable presets. So it's a little bit different, not exactly the same presets that you can see in demos, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure, but in general, like basically presets are already complete setups with selected plugins which look complete, like, and you can also test it, so it's interactable. So like you can see that you can actually start using the product, and you can see that is available with a specific preset, with a specific list of plugins and features that are related to a specific preset. So we have a bunch, and they're tailored for different experiences, different use cases, and different setups. So you should definitely explore, and you can start with something complex like collaboration document editor, like, which has a lot of things, and the stuff that we will use exactly in this webinar. However, you can start small and build on top of that. For example, like we have like very smaller versions of that one, like a little bit limited, or we have like a complete starters, like nothing, like a complete blank starter. Like if you want to build your own thing, you pretty much can use that stuff. So and you also get a description of what this preset is. So so you get enough information to make a decision and move to the next step. However, for the sake of the being at a complete educational webinar, we can select the collaborative document editor. So this is the exact preset that we're going to use today. This is the exact demo that we will show you later on. But yeah, so you can basically, like, if you're following along, you can select this one. If you just want to watch and use it later on, like as a recorded video, we're going with this one. And continuing to the next stage. The next stage, step. The next step is the ability to select features manually. And as you can see, we selected a preset with a bunch of features available, like already pre-selected for this specific preset. So like, as you can see, like already a lot of features are marked as selected. So like a lot of stuff is selected, and you can review like every single individual feature and see like, oh, that's what it is. That's what is available. And each feature obviously has a description, so you're not lost. You get enough information and feedback on what it is. However, obviously presets don't limit you to that. So like if you want to enable something more, you're not limited from that. Like you can see that some features are not selected. So sure, go ahead. You can include those. And yeah, unfortunately, we have too many things. So it appeared at the, no, sorry, where did it appear?
It's a special one, so it's gonna be.
Aha. Okay, actually, yeah, that's new to me. I selected the one that I didn't expect the behavior of. However, yeah, you can see that a new feature appeared in the toolbar. Yeah, at the top. So and you always can disable it if you feel like, nah, I don't need it. Like,
yeah, it's basically this topic of same defaults, right? Like we try to anticipate, like we understand that that's a lot, right? Like it's basically tons of stuff. Let's imagine you are on our webinar for like 15 minutes, right? And we already dumped a bunch of knowledge on you. We know it can be hard. Like we have people that are here years, and they get to know some feature after a while, right? So this is the same defaults that we try to help you with, like, okay, like taking into account our experiences, knowledge. If we, talk with clients, observe our users, it's basically, okay, what is the sensible document editor, right? Like, what can we expect as a user that will be available for them to basically create those documents. But as you said, Vadim, it's basically like, okay, there may be this one specific thing that I want to add on top of that, or I notice that, okay, it may be disabled, I do not need it. And yeah, you can just do it.
Yes, and thank you so much for that, Sim. Yeah, I mean, like I'm talking too much, and sometimes I lost track of that, and you're really good at just putting it back in place. So yeah, but like I also want to mention that this is the step when you can enable features, but that's not the only option, and I just want to stress it out, because like you can be safe like with that setup, and you can later on in the code add additional things, like if you feel so. Like if you realize like, oh, that's actually missing and I didn't realize that when I created the starter using the builder. So with that being said, we will keep the setup tailored to the preset specifically. We will not add anything additionally and just move to the next step. So the next step is about toolbar. So the toolbar is obviously this top element that we have in our builder. And yeah, we can also customize it a bit. So it's not also limited. It's not very, like we don't force you to one specific way of using it. Like you can also customize your behavior and enable certain things. And as you can see already, the wrap thing is enabled, which allows us to collapse like additional extra plugins if we have too much stuff, because when the editor becomes too complex, and if you have like 2 or 3 rows of plugins, that's not going to look pretty. So you probably want to hide certain things. And later on, we will talk about also the organizational part, like how you can structure like the order of plugins as well, because like that might be something you're looking for. It's like the similar vibe of like having applications on your iPhone in a specific order, because like it's you need to be able to customize your experience, and this is very important because otherwise it might be illogical and grouping doesn't make sense for you if it makes sense for us. So everything here is customizable. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing as you mentioned, which is this is the same default that we propose, right? Like you can change, and we can probably show that later in the code that you can change the order in any way, right? You can decide that I want something earlier because I know I expect my users to use it much more often. But yeah, like later on, everything is configurable, which is also one of the strengths of the CKEditor 5. We want to be this configurable, extendable platform that you can use that maybe is taking some of the choices, but leaves a lot to you, and you can configure it in any way you want.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll keep it as is, like the stuff that is provided by the preset, and move to the last stage. And this is the last stage, which is very important for the technology you expect to use, and also the features you expect to use. Because at CKEditor we support multiple plugins, and obviously we support beyond that. Like it's just the out of the box presets that will the code base that you can download, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use like anything else. Like if it's JavaScript based, like obviously you can integrate it. So don't be scared. Like if you don't see your framework of choice here, like you still can, you still will be able to integrate it easily. We just stick to these. We might expand. I'm not sure. I don't want to overpromise, but like yeah, this is the list that we have right now. So basically, here you need to select certain things. First, you need to select the technology. We'll select React in our specific case. Next, we select the cloud, CDN. And if you want, Vitek, like you can explain the difference between those. Like if
Yeah,
not,
so,
like
so
we
basically it's again the thing that fits you the most and what is your preference, right? Like I probably will also mention to the Vadim, you see those yellow callouts, right? It's basically, hey, you have some premium features in your setup. And we haven't mentioned that, but CKEditor 5 is actually a free open source product. Like we are licensed, like we are on the GitHub license under GPL 2+. So basically there is a tons of free features that you can set up your editor with and use it right according to the license and have it this way. But we, as a company, we provide this premium experience, which is this features on top that bring additional value and, for example, lower this time to market if you will be interested in that, right? Like I do not need to build it myself. I will just acquire this value from the CKEditor. So the cloud self-hosted is again the decision that may how you want to integrate. Like you want to create quickly free an account, right? I want the CDN. You have that, right? I need to have the self-hosted option. I prefer to have this npm packaged version, right? That I will have total control of. You have the npm. So maybe one fun fact: we tend to overestimate some things, like based on our experiences. This is something that I've learned. Building the builder, working on the product, it's basically there is multiple scenarios. Like we really have people that love buildless JavaScript. Like they do not want to have any bundler npm or anything, and they really prefer to have the option to have the CDN enabled for them. There is tons of people that prefer bundling just to squeeze every kilobyte and performance millisecond out of their build, right? And there's tons of possibilities. So pick the one that you prefer and yeah, be happy with it. Oh, I lost your volume, Vadim, I think. Oh.
Well, hello.
Yeah,
Perfect.
for a second I thought you froze, but man, that was scary.
Luckily not. Not yet. Not yet. I'm trying my best. So, and yeah, like as soon as you selected the technology and the integration method, basically the last thing is the output. Like, yeah, and as Didek already mentioned, as like if you selected some premium features, obviously you will need to sign up for a license. You have enough time to basically play around with it and just to test it, like what you will get out of the box with CKEditor without basically introducing like custom plugins and doing too much stuff, basically using what we provide as a building blocks. So yeah, if you go through the sign up for the trial, I will not unfortunately show that because that will expose my key, so like I cannot really show
Are you
you how.
using one password, Vadim? Is this what you're trying to say to us?
Yes, honestly, no, but also yes. Like
Okay.
I will, like, yeah, I will not confirm, not deny that.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's yeah, but yeah, like I will probably not pass the security thing in the company. Yeah. So like you need to create a license, and the perfect thing that we introduced recently is as soon as you create your own account and as soon as you obtain this license key, it will be automatically propagated to your starter. So like it will be automatically there. You don't need to wire it up with the code. Like it's already gonna be, everything is gonna be connected for you. So you don't have to do anything manually in terms of actually writing the license key and the correct
Yeah.
variable and stuff like that. It's already going to be there, and it's also going to be mentioned in the builder. It's going to be like a very clear disclaimer, like, hey, license already there, like don't
Yeah,
stress about it.
exactly. And by the way, like account free setup, no credit cards required. If you want to just play with the premium features, we do not ask you for any data. Just like have it for I think 2 weeks, like 14 days. Play with it, see if the premium features give you value, which ones, which you do not like, and basically have fun with it.
Yeah. So, and the recommended flow here is to actually download the sample project, because you can also do the code snippets thing just to do everything, and it's very suitable if you have already a complete project. Like if you have a React app on your machine and you just want to kind of expand it with CKEditor, sure, this works. But in our specific case, I think it's going to be just a lot faster for you to download the project, install the dependencies using npmi command in your terminal, and you're pretty much good to go.
Yep.
So yeah, just do that. And while I do while I remove the browser from the stage, and I will start showing the actual code, so we can do a brief introduction of what you get and how it works. We actually have time for some spontaneous questions. Like
Okay.
if something was unclear, or something, like if you're curious about what you saw, please let us know in the chat and we can immediately address this question while I am trying to figure out computers.
Yeah, go ahead. I will take a look at the chat. I can share some fun facts. Okay, so for example, when we were building the builder, right, which is basically June last year when we released it for the first time, like CKEditor is a very long project, right? It's we had version 4, like the whole company is 20 years plus, right? The CKEditor 5 is like 8 years already. So what we did also last year, not only we released the builder, we also simplified the installation methods. Like as you can imagine, if like we worked on it for 8 years on CKEditor 5, there were some like rust in some places. Like we've kept adding the setup options. Some of them were correct, some of them were dated. As you probably some of you are familiar with JavaScript environment, like things are changing pretty fast. So even if we decided years ago that hey, this webpack stuff looks like it's gonna be a default pretty soon, like 8 years later, it's like no, that didn't happen. So what was very interesting for us is like trying to figure out how to be pretty agnostic in terms of the setups of the JavaScript, HTML, like every bundler, every framework, meta framework that is appearing. Like this is like all the joke, right? Like this is the everyday new framework for JavaScript appears. So we try to battle, like test it basically, right? Like learn from our mistakes and learn what the community does in general. And we are pretty excited with the result. Like we can see that the setup from the last year is much simpler when it comes to like how you get this project running.
Yeah, so, and I already have the code here. So this is exactly the code. Well, I mean, almost exactly, except for this thing, because I removed my license key for a separate file, again, for the sake of not showing you my single password. So yeah, but in terms of like everything else, this is exactly the stuff that you will get from the builder. So like Yes, some minor things, like depending on like if you watch this as a recording, like some things might change over time, like, but it's not going to be dramatic. Like it's not going to be a huge change. We're mindful of that. Like we're not going to, like make it confusing. So yeah, it's going to be relatively the same. Some minor adjustments might be introduced, but the code is gonna look like this, and the code might look confusing because like it's a lot. Like it's pretty, it's a chunky boy. It's a large file. Like it's not a small thing. Like it's not like one liner. So some introduction would be nice because there is like if you separate it logically for a certain logical groups, it starts to be a lot easier to process and understand the value of. So I can start with certain things. Like if you do you see exactly like something, because like this might be important, like if you want to talk about that, because like look, do you have any opinions on how you want to do that, Vitek, or I can take it?
Yeah, you can take over, and I will just put a comment here or there.
Yeah, okay. So basically, since we specified the cloud as an integration method, we have that specific variable. That specific variable helps us using this use CKEditor cloud import from the CKEditor React package to specify a couple of things. Specify the version of the package, specify if we use the premium plugins features, and also specify the version of the CK box, which is like a product inside product, a product within the CKEditor ecosystem. So this is basically just a single source of truth-ish for versioning that makes sense for the CKEditor. So this is important because we're going to use this variable later on to re-export plugins and use it in our setup. Next, we have the constant variable, which is a large object with, first of all, free plugins. And you can see these are the names of plugins that we basically re-export from the cloud.CKEditor. So using the cloud, you get to access to the CKEditor object, which allows you to get access to free plugins. And use, go
ahead. And basically just to give you the idea, like why we have such a big list, it's basically like CKEditor is very plugin based. Like we almost have this saying that everything is a plugin, right? From the paragraph, right, to the bold, like everything is basically wrapped up in a plugin, which is like benefit of the CKEditor 5 architecture is that you can create your own plugins, and maybe we'll talk a bit later about that. Like every feature comes with us as a one plugin or multiple plugins, and you can basically configure them however you want.
Yeah, and also I would love to mention, take a second to actually give you the link to the documentation, because the naming of these could be confusing. Well, I mean, it's usually straightforward, but just in case, I would love to share the link to the documentation, to the list of the features, just to show you how basically you can export all of the plugins. And yeah, like each plugin gets like a dedicated segment in the documentation, so you can get the idea of the use case, how to use this plugin, and also how to configure it and how to export it. Was the correct naming for this? For this array.
That's a good point. Like sometimes features, when we try to make them understandable for the users, like because everything is plugin, it may be a bit confusing later on. Like take, for example, images, right? Like we have this one image plugin, but then you have image block and image inline, which is two plugins that are a bit different. And you may want to actually only use one of them, right? I do not want to have inline images like, for example, Notion does not have this images within the text, right? Like you can only have image blocks. So obviously, like the deeper you go, the more options you have. So definitely consult the docs, and yeah, they will guide you basically how to set up a certain feature or configure it.
Yep. And beneath that, we have this similar like object in the similar fashion for the premium feature specifically. Sorry. So this object obviously relates to premium features, and the main question you might have: how do you identify these features? Like if you are not including those during the builder phase, because there it's literally written if it's premium or not. In the documentation, you have a star icon next to the feature. So this is the way for you to identify if the feature is free or not. So basically, if the feature has the star icon, you have to import it from the premium features object. If not, it comes from the CKEditor and it's a free feature. So this is the way you imported plugins to the setup of yours. And next, we have to actually start to use that. So I will skip that part for a bit just to focus on a different thing. Here, if we go to the returns part, which is about here, like in the middle of this file, what's going to be a good anchor for people to... Sorry, I lost the train of thought of mine. Basically, you have the return, which is the editor config. You can find it by basically using the editor config as like in your Command F on or Control F, depending on which platform you're using. And basically, this is where the configuration of the CKEditor instance starts. And here are several things that are important. First, basically the toolbar, and this is the stuff that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. If you remember that I mentioned the specific order of the plugins in the toolbar, this is where you do that. And you are able to basically hard code or just, like very manually specify the specific list of plugins in specific order, and also use straight line separator to group these elements. So if you open the editor, any demo you can see in the CKEditor page, you basically can see that it has like straight line separators that groups elements depending on some certain logic. So you can do that logic completely manually. It's not, we're not forcing you to do that in a specific way. Just it's up to you. It's just a free feature that you can use in any style and fashion that makes sense to you. And next we have the plugins array, basically, which is the re-export of all of the plugins that are available and are exported from the cloud variable that we showed a couple of minutes ago. So here goes all of the plugins, premium, free, all of that stuff. You basically list all of the plugins just to make sure to say to say to the config of your editor, like, hey, these are the plugins, I want those to be available. And here you say to the editor, I want these to be available. And above that, the toolbar itself, like, hey, I not only want it to be available, I also want it to be visible as a button in my toolbar. And beneath that, we have the actual configuration for each dedicated plugin. So obviously, like each plugin can, like allow you to customize its behavior. So you're able to basically customize how it behaves, like what's the output, or some specific configurations that make sense for you specifically. So yeah, and this is the place where you can do that. Yes. So Vitek, what's the next thing we would like to show? Because like we can talk about the real-time collaboration, which is a huge thing and could take a while. So do we want to do some more coding introduction, or it could be more confusing than helpful?
No, I hope it's not confusing, right? But I think it's like we can jump to the implementation, and maybe we can. We'll see. We can go back and forth, right? Like show what we mean by configuration of the plugins. This one is interesting. For example, you have headings, right? And as you can imagine, different application may have different requirements for headings. There is some defaults in the editor, but you can override them and say, for example, that you want to allow your users that the heading 1 is actually H1, right? Like it's this top tag, but some applications may want to have another need, right? And this H1 is actually a separate input field above the editor, and users shouldn't use H1 because it's a very SEO relatable element, right? Like you shouldn't have two H1s, for example, on the page. So these configurations allow you to to basically fit the editor to your use case, tweak the features a bit, and yeah, that's it. Let's maybe jump to the editor itself, and we'll show some other cooler features also.
Yes, and while I do that, as always, questions are welcome. But now I will make sure that we have the editor because we will actually try our best to demonstrate the real-time collaboration as real-time collaboration.
Yeah, let's see. Let's pray to the demo gods.
They are usually not super friendly, so my expectations are low. However, here you go. This is the exact editor. It could be too small, actually. Is that large enough?
Yeah.
Because it's already going like outside of the scope because we have a pretty large editor. I don't want to make it like too confusing. Okay, so yeah, the keyboard sound basically come from VDEC. So I wasn't typing that, but you can see the screen share, my screen share. So basically what you see is my instance, but both of us are working from the same document. So you can see that apparently I cannot type at all. So yes, and you can see that the real-time calibration is running. We're both connected to the same instance. And this is the exact code that we showed you. This is the exact code that you are able to get from Builder. So without any specific effort, with some effort, obviously, but like not super confusing, not super chaotic. You're able to get instance that is fully functional and allows you to already use out-of-the-box real-time calibration. And let's probably talk.
Just one thing here, because like for me, like as a person that was a developer and I've seen it for the first time, it was like kind of magical, right? Like if you go into the weeds of like how this real-time collaboration is difficult, right? You have those instances connecting with each other, but you actually can within like 10 to 15 minutes, like depending how fast you click and type, or even 5 minutes, you can go from like I have nothing to I have a real-time collaborative document editor that actually connects to people. Obviously, there are some details here that will explain to you that this is still development version, but this, this time to value or time to let your boss know this thing works is, like decreased significantly, basically, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's great. Like I don't know how to add on top of that. Like what you said, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's great, and I totally agree with that. So, however, like real-time collaboration could be like it's still like very unclear besides working on one document, like simultaneously, like asynchronously. So there are probably 4 specific pillars or 4 specific like sub features of for the real-time collaboration that we can touch on. So we can do just that. So first of all, like editing, obviously, like you saw, we were typing in the same document, so we were able to actually add text synchronously to the one document and work together on that. And just to make it even more fancy, I can even insert some AI generated code. So like insert a dad joke because I'm not creative. And this is going to be a relatively short part. Boom, here you go. And this already is available for VDEC and for me. So and also introduces how to use the AI code and assistant, which you are able to use with CKEditor as well. So editing, collaborative editing, like it's great. It's something that you can use straight away, and it's intuitive enough. However, there are more things, and VDEC already actually introduced one more thing here, which is comments. So basically, if you used Google Docs or any kind of typical online editor like Notion editing or something like that, so comments is a huge thing because like if you're collaborating with someone, like if you're writing some kind of article or just like reviewing newsletter text or whatever else, or like landing page text, like any use case you can think of, like any writing. If you're writing something, like you obviously want to collaborate with different teams and you want to get like their opinions, like you want to review text collaboratively, and you obviously want to leave comments for specific lines. So sure thing, you can get this feature with CKEditor. So obviously you get the ability to reply to this comment, and I can just approve like if there is a comment that requires some specific change, I add the text as with any other platform, and I can mark it as resolved. Give me a sec, I need some water. And this is how comments work. Again, something that is available with just configuration that came out of the builder. So we didn't really customize it at all. Like we didn't introduce any customization in terms of code, like no effort at all from you as from developer. The next thing is track changes. So basically, yeah. So VTech, like if you want to talk that, or I can do that. I don't.
Yeah, it's basically we can like probably also known from other tools. I think mostly from the Google Docs, or probably even like, let's not forget the precursor of like every document editing, which is Microsoft Word, right? Like it's basically this setup of tracking the changes that we do to someone else's document, right? Like I do not like this word, let's put it out, or there is this one sentence missing, right, that I want to add, and I can do it, right? And when you think about it, is this collaboration is basically that, right? Like it's having this workflows and processes in which people try to write comments, right, propose changes to those documents. And yeah, this is the track changes, which is in some flows very, very useful.
Yes, and obviously, like you can see that I'm able to manipulate, like there is a specific UI for a plugin itself, and I also can use the sidebar to interact with the specific changes, just not like as a bulk change, like not just to do like everything at the same time, like as I showed it before. But I can do like, yeah, I can comment, start a discussion, or just accept it, or discard the suggestion as well. So like everything else of that is available with that plugin, again, out of the box. And one more thing is, which is, obviously not less important, as the revision history. So the revision history is something that is very important. If you are into coding, you are familiar with Git. You know what, like version control, like how is it important? How important to have like multiple versions in the doc just to see the progress, or you want to get back to the specific state of this document to get back to some specific version because it might be made more sense. Multiple reasons behind that, but revision history is massive. And here you can see the initial version, which as the default text that you get out of the builder. So this was the instant version that you get with the builder. So it was initialized as the first thing until we dropped it and showed you the empty screen when we were able to collaboratively interact with same document onto instances. Sorry, and collaborate on one instance on two machines. This is more correct. So yeah, so basically this is the place where you can have like multiple instances of documents, versions of documents. Yeah, so all of that going to be listed here, and the changes and the person corresponding person related to these changes. So all of that's nothing that is not intuitive, I want to say. Like if you saw like revision history and Google Docs, for example, looks exactly the same. Like maybe UI is slightly different, but the logic itself of the UI is exactly the same.
It's saving the revisions, right? Like being able to set, I think, or if I remember correctly, names, and yeah, basically having that that possibility to have again this workflow of, okay, we need to go a few revisions back, or we need to see what someone changed, right? So it's this notion of this feature is having those revisions. Maybe we'll uncover one thing. Some of you may already wonder, what are those names that we see here? For example, Terry someone or Jerry Roseby. And so what Builder gives you as the output, what Vadim did is like, okay, we have this working, but there is this test environment. Like collaboration itself, it needs to have some kind of server. We provide the server, but it also needs users, which is, I think, kind of obvious, right? Like we want to see who commented what. In the initial setup, development setup, you will just get, we called it the dev token URL, which is basically token URL like that the editor is uses to connect. And whenever there is a new user, if I will open like second, third tab, I will get a random username basically. So this is for the development purposes only. We were able to achieve it that fast because there is like this whole user setup is out of the way for now, but we get these users that have these fake names, right? Later on, maybe we'll do a second webinar on that as well. Obviously, you need to like sync your users with the editor, with also the backend server that is running the collaboration. So there is an entire setup. It's also in the docs, so we may share it with you, that you need to implement some stuff on your side to have the collaboration working with your users.
Yeah, I mean, this topic is very definitely worth a webinar, but it's too large to kind of include it as a part of the getting started webinar, because that's definitely not getting started. That's a lot. But yes, like obviously, like this is more than enough for you to kind of like this sense the feature, like basically to understand like what's the basics, like what is available out of the box. However, yes, like let us know in the comments, in the chat, or on socials, like if you want a more dedicated webinar on that topic specifically, because that could be something interesting to just, like go into this specific like small segment of the product and just to explore it in details, just to make like a real production ready setup. So yeah, and the last thing that we would love to show is basically like the ability, one of the more practical features. Sorry, not more, it's I don't want to say that other features are less practical, but one of the features that are also very practical. So we are able to export documents, and this is very important for multiple use cases. And this is yet another plugin that is available out of the box that is pre-selected by the builder using the preset. So we didn't have to do anything manually. You basically, if you selected the preset that we did, you will get this feature. And if you click this button, the document will be saved on your machine. And let me really quickly open it in the browser. So if I pull this document, can I actually do that? For some reason, it doesn't work. I cannot, for some reason, pull, like drag and drop the document to the browser. That's weird.
Probably if you double click it, it should open. It depends what's your default, right? But
yeah, give me a sec. Actually, yeah, because I have usually a dedicated app, but it's not very. Give me a sec. So this is the document export functionality, and give me a second while I try to figure out things. Here we go. So this is the document. This is the exact, like if we go to the, oops, here we go. Like this is the exact instance that we saw in the editor itself. So with that being said, like if we go back to the exported PDF, like same styling, same stuff. Like this is the exactly same document you will get. And it's exported by just one click, like no effort at all from you. So like this is very straightforward and simple. And again, zero configurations that were required from us in order to add this plugin to the functionality like features list to our setup. So this is basically it. Like, do you want to add something on top of that for the export PDF?
No, it's export to PDF, export to Word, right? Like it's basically being able to, again, maybe your flow requires you to have these documents emailed and not, I don't know, sent or share the page, right? So depending again on your use case, some of features like export may really be helpful for the content creation. Import from Word as well, right? When you have a workflow of maybe importing some documents from the I know your clients, right, that you want to have. This is also something that is possible. And not sure, Vadim, if you want to share the templates as well, or we are running out of time a bit.
Template of what, sir? Oh, yes, the templates.
Templates, yeah.
Yes, the template, I can really quickly do that. So basically, template is yet another feature. For some reason, I cannot type. Are you able to type?
Let's maybe refresh.
Yeah. Oh, okay, all good on my side. So maybe some glitch because I'm using a bunch of browsers and I'm not sure sometimes where I'm actually typing. So if we drop everything, you can also use plugins. So templates. Sorry, plugins. Sure, you can use plugins. Yeah, I mean, I'm not wrong technically, but yeah, like I want to be more specific. So like you can insert templates, and template is yet again another plugin that is available with the preset. So, and you can use this the plugin, which is, for example, Invoice, that is something that you can use for multiple use cases. And yes, templates are very useful and very important to have because like you obviously like if you create documents and obviously like when you have an editor, a rich text editor in your setup on your application, you will do a lot of repetitive stuff. So this is where templates as the feature that is essential because like you will have like a lot of structures that are basically exactly the same. And this is maybe the moment when we can introduce merge fields, which is another fancy feature. So Eric, the floor is yours.
It's a very interesting, like as I mentioned, right? Like you have templates, repeatable content. You do not want your content creators to repeat themselves, copy paste. Here in the editor, you have this template. Please use it. I remember you have even probably YouTube video, right, on this invoice template creation, right? Feel free to check it out. We can share it as well. But basically, we have the templates. And what's really interesting later on, what happens with those editors features is that you see them collaborate, like being interconnected, right? When we see templates later on, we may think about the data, right? And there is some data that we want to have reusable or replaceable. So here is where the merge fields come. It's basically the idea of placeholders, right? You may have seen it in some apps, right? Like, for example, customer support apps, email template creators, right? Like this high customer name. So this is the merge fields. It's the placeholder values that your user may insert into the content. Like you have this my name, for example, right? And we can place it inside the content, right? Your content creator may use them as well. And this is this placeholder value. And later on in some post-processing, data sending, you can replace those values with your data, right? What is really cool on our side in the editor, you also have this preview option. So you do not only see the default, you can define the defaults, you can define some data, right, that your user will be able to see, to check, to switch. They can even export with it, right? So whenever you have the data defined, you export to PDF. You can get the PDF already with this data. And merge fields are really, really cool with such features, but you can think about tons of other use cases for them. We also have something called block merge fields. Let's imagine that you have a document with the predefined table that your user for now is not defining, right? It's the data will come from the backend, but you want to have this table in the content. Or actually, tomorrow we have the release, right? There's the new release, tons of new features, by the way. Subscribe to our channel/newsletter and you will see them. And we'll have tomorrow image merge fields, right? We have this notion from our users and customers like, okay, I want to have the images as placeholders that later on I will, for example, put a chart on, and we will have the possibility to, resize them or caption them. So this is a very, very exciting feature that could be used for very, very different things.
Yes. And with that being said, I think this is all of the features that we will cover today, just not to make it a complete mess, because that could be just too much. And also, we're 1 hour live, so like we don't want to make it like also too difficult for you to listen and stay along with. So with that being said, I think we have some time for a Q&A session, so to actually answer questions if you have any. So I will stop presenting my screen so we can focus on the questions specifically. if we have any.
Andrew mentioned some typos. What is really funny, Andrew, is that Vadim had this template set up before the meeting, and he already had a typo in there. So it's also always tricky, right? Like if you think templates are without the typos, and then you are then you're sad because you set up the template with the typo as well. Happens.
Yep. Yeah, and it's also just this time saver. It's just productivity. Not only like first of all, like it's, as somebody who is like a typo kin, like I cannot type at all. Like, and the best day I make like at least like 10 typos in one sentence, and the worst, I will not even mention that. But yeah, in general, it's just saves time, because like I don't have interest, especially like if I do repetitive documents, I don't have interest in creating like repetitive structures. I want to just update the data and like pass this document along, like if it needs to be a report or something, or I need to focus on the creative part of this document, obviously making this like completed by default. If that's a repetitive, sure, it's like no brainer. Like it's a very important thing for me to have. Like these automation things are not important for a rich text editor at all. It's like a general thought, like a mindset in life. Like if something can be automated, sure, I don't want to be bothered with it. So yes, this is one of those features which delivers just that. That's it for this specific one. Do we have any more questions? Was it helpful? Was it informative? Was it clear? Just let us know in the chat. Yeah, it looks like we don't have any more specific questions. So I will give just one extra minute for people. I ask it in the Q&A. Oh, give me a sec. In the Q&A tab.
We have it there. So, Vadim, I'm not sure if you can bring it to the screen, but I will read it. Do you save the document as HTML file? By default, yes. So we are the HTML WYSIWYG editor, right? To work in the browser, there is this HTML layer. So when you do editor get data, it's basically HTML string, but you can define the editor type as a bit different. So for example, you may want to have a markdown as output, right? So we have a plugin for that, again, plugin, and you can use this plugin to have the markdown output. So whenever you enable this plugin, there is this, we call it data processor enabled, and you basically on editor get data, get markdown. And you can create your own data processors, right? You can have your own structures. By default, it's HTML.
Does that answer your question, Jens? I will unpin it from the screen, but if you need any, okay, yeah, perfect. Like it answered this question. Awesome. Okay, folks, we have a couple of minutes, not more than that, for extra questions. If not, you can still reach us out through our website. You can find it further any socials and reach us out there. So we're always up for that. So let's stay in touch. And while I speak, I just keep an eye on the chat if we have anything else.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to us. As I've mentioned, our GitHub is open, right? We are open source. You can, whenever you find something quirky or you want to share some feedback or you have a question, or you can even report the bug, right? Like, which is our favorite. But basically, it's feel free to use GitHub. You can write to us. You can email us, right, on our contact channel. You can LinkedIn us, like X us probably, right, depending on the platform of your choice. Feel free to give us feedback, and especially feel free to give it a try, even if you are not right now into text in your application or you are not planning that right now. I think it's a very, very cool skill, like even as a side project, right? Like whenever you have a new thing to test, I think this text editing, thinking about how your users could write texts, yeah, it's something useful and very nice to have in your portfolio under your belt, like something that you've done in the past.
Yeah, and as the part of the closing statement, yes, I shared the link to the GitHub in the chat, so feel free to open it and pin it as your favorite, and give us more stars, by the way, because it helps us to reach more people. Basically, it's not something that I want for my ego. It's just for you folks, basically, because I know that if you have more stars and if you have more attention to your repo, more people can randomly find this project and realize like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. So it's the part of the open source culture. So it's free. Just do that. Like, it helps us. If you don't want to, that's still also totally fine. But if you would do, we really appreciate that. So yeah, with that being said, I think that we're good to go. So I really appreciate all of you who joined. I hope it was informative and helpful for you folks. We tried our best to squeeze a lot of information because getting started with such a huge project is quite challenging, and to mention everything is almost impossible, as you saw, because like we already started to mention like, oh, this is good enough for another webinar. So we tried to make it helpful and useful, and we hope you enjoyed it. And we really appreciate everybody who joined. So thank you so much. Until next time, and have a great
Yeah, everyone,
part
have
of
a
your
nice
day.
day.